History happened everywhere.
The verdict.
This is our after-show podcast where we look back at the most recent episode, episode 52, Hell or Highwater in Latvia during 2005 to 2010. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and check it out, or else there are going to be spoilers ahead.
I really couldn't care less.
Hello and welcome to History Happened Everywhere, The Verdict. My name is Ryan Weir and I am here in the HHE studio with the dish soap to my brush. It's Mr. Peter Goddard.
You're a brush user, not a sponge or a scratchy thing.
Who uses a sponge? And with us, as always, it's HHE's Doctor of Daintiness. It's the Honourable Judge Dursley.
I've never heard of dish soap.
It's the soap you use to clean your dishes.
But it's washing up liquid.
Peter, you were at a barbecue yesterday?
I was indeed.
How was it?
It was delicious.
Paul, you been to a barbecue?
Not for a long time, no.
Do you know what I like about a barbecue? The barbecue sauce.
Isn't it all molasses and sugars and...
I think it is quite sugary.
It would explain why I like it so much. I now drink it from the bottle. But enough of this tish and tosh. Peter, it would serve us all rather well if you wouldn't mind somehow summarising your Latvian adventure in, let's say, 60 seconds.
I'm here to serve, Ryan. When would you like me to start?
I say do it now.
I took Ryan on a tour of the filling of the Baltic sandwich, the small but perfectly formed nation of Latvia, where we discovered that between 2005 and 2010 they were hit harder than possibly any other nation by the global financial crash. Unemployment soared, corruption was commonplace and people were fed up. But the people would not be beaten and we met Eric Jacobson, the Latvian Rambo, a hacker known as Neo, who leaked thousands of documents embarrassing the government. We learned of the March of the Blondes, who were determined to cheer everybody up, and the 2005 inaugural Gay Pride March, in which the gay community of Latvia demonstrated that they were here to stay come hell or high water. Latvia, we liked it.
That was last week's episode done, summarised nicely. Nice one, son. Now we're over to young Dursley, who's gonna tell you what he thought of thee. He'll take you apart without any care. He's the lovely Paul Dursley. The lovely Paul Dursley.
I received a very expensive parcel on Friday.
Oh, it arrived.
Oh, yes, it's arrived. And I found a bottle of black liquid. It sort of looked like Coca-Cola, and I hate Coca-Cola.
Well, good news, it's not Coca-Cola. It sounds very much like it might have all the hallmarks of Black Balsam, the national drink of Latvia that we had in the episode.
Yes, and I've just poured it out. I don't know whether you're supposed to take it over ice, but I have.
Ah, that's the clinking sound I'm hearing. I thought the milkman was coming round. So are you going to take a sip then?
Yes.
I can picture his lips. Suckling on the edge of the glass.
Distinguishing all of the botanicals.
I'll have to have another.
Ooh.
So what's your verdict?
I think it is a classic curate's egg.
What is a curate's egg?
Well, it just means good in parts.
Ah, okay.
Not in others.
It derives, I believe, from a cartoon in which a curate is asked if his egg is off, and he's a very polite man, so he says, only in parts.
Oh, okay. What a funny cartoon.
It's from that time where the cartoons, you'd like them and go, okay, that's funny, is it?
Some would say that humour is timeless. Others would say not at all. So tell us, you like it? Would you buy a bottle of it?
I'm not sure I'd buy a bottle of it, but I will finish this glass.
It's a shame because I've got a bottle to sell.
Oh, if you're giving it away, I'll have it.
Keyword was sell.
It's quite mellow at the start, and it has a really weird, bitter middle note.
Yeah, when Ryan and I taste things, it's yucky or yummy. That's pretty much the extent of our analysis. But you're bringing something new to the table.
So I think if that with tonic water would be rather nice. I'm going to go and get some to top it up and see what it's like.
All right, let's do it.
Just give me a sec.
We're now in the experimental cocktail stage.
This is an unusual verdict. This is my best chance for an A, is that he has half a bottle of black balsam before the end of the episode. He's drunk enough to give me a good grade.
While he's gone, don't you think that black balsam would be a good superhero?
Absolutely.
Right? I don't know quite what their power is.
Just soothing.
Just sounds great.
It's all right. Everything's going to be all right. You believe him.
Oh my God, that's amazing power. Morgan Freeman would voice Black Balsam. Oh, he's back. Stop talking about comic characters.
So it now looks even more like Coca-Cola. That's much better with tonic water.
Ah.
Well,
Okay,
you heard it here first. Peter.
Yes, Ryan.
I understand we've had some feedback on your episode.
Very correct. Some of our YouTube listeners have kindly got in touch. YouTube user Politics in a Nutshell, weirdly doesn't talk about politics, but talks about the flags. You remember I said it was a carmine red stripe on top and bottom with a little white stripe in between. And they say to us that the red is a dark to represent blood. There's a legend of the Latvian pagan leader who was injured in battle and died on a white sheet, leaving the middle white and the sides covered in blood. And the pagans later used that sheet when going into battle.
The bloody sheet.
Now, funnily enough, we've heard this story before.
Have we?
Because I think it was the Austria episode where they have a very similar legend. So either there's a lot of bloody sheets going around or the one story going around. I'm not sure which it is.
There's a lot of bloody sheets. People were injured a lot. People would then lie on a bed or some sort of sheet-covered object.
I'm not sure I'd want to be the standard bearer in that situation, though.
Yes.
Could you fly this just above your head? I'd rather not.
It might drip on you.
Well, you'd let it dry, but then actually blood turns sort of brown, doesn't it, when it dries?
Yes.
So really, all these flags should just be brown flags. Well, no, I'm grateful for them writing in and letting us know that. That's awesome.
I am too, and we have a second write in from Yanis Eglins, who says, heroes and villains aren't always so clear-cut. Now, if you recall, we had a lot of tales of determination and heroism, really, I described it as. But Yanis says that Erik Jakobsen, you remember the Latvian Rambo, was part of the same party as Einars Slessers, who you may not remember, he only got a little mention. He was the one who denounced the gay march as being a parade of perversion and was very much the bad guy in the story as I told it. But in fact, both Erik Jakobsens and Einar Slesser were part of the same party, and that was a party that also helped push through anti-gay marriage amendments in Parliament. So our man, the Latvian Rambo, who I portrayed as all hero, it's a mixed message. He was a Christian fundamentalist and in this case was on the, in my opinion, very much the wrong side of the debate when it came to gay marriage.
Heroes and villains.
So actually, the other thing I didn't mention last episode was it wasn't relevant to the topic, but I wanted to talk about it because it was quite interesting. They have another march that was quite controversial, in which Latvian World War II veterans march. So far, so non-controversial. But some of them are members of the Latvian Waffen SS, the Nazi German SS. So yes, to some people, the Latvians who fought on the side of the German army are primarily remembered as having opposed Soviet forces. And where the Soviets were considered the greater enemy, there's less of a concern, if you will, about the people who fought on the side of the Germans. So the Germans, in a way, can be perceived as, well, again, it's an enemy of my enemy situation rather than necessarily good guys and bad guys.
Yes.
So out of sheer convenience, suddenly somebody who fought for the Nazis was actually fighting against the Soviet occupiers as became. And the Soviets are not very popular in Latvia in many quarters. So there's a march which I don't think you'd see. I'm not sure if it's still going today. There was certainly some years ago where people who marched saying, yeah, I remember being part of the SS, which is a remarkable situation. It's very controversial. Don't get me wrong. There are not loads of Latvians cheering as the SS marched through town. There are plenty of people who are strongly opposed to it, but it's something that would be unthinkable in most other countries.
But it's a bit similar to the Finnish situation, my enemy's enemy is my friend. After the Winter War, where the Soviet Union attacked Finland, So Finland, when they joined the Second World War, they joined it on the German side to fight the Soviets.
The world's a complex place, isn't it?
It is, especially when you're little Latvia that literally was just pushed between Soviet occupation, Nazi occupation, Soviet occupation again, and it only in the 90s get to be Latvia again.
Yeah. I mean, with our modern eyes, it's difficult to perhaps understand why people might celebrate Nazis, but given the history...
Well, I mean, there's plenty of Germans who fought, and you're not necessarily a Nazi.
Well, maybe not SS. It's fighting as a soldier as opposed to a political entity, wasn't it? After Rommel was forced to shoot himself, Churchill stood up in the middle of the war praising Rommel for being a great soldier. So, he stacked his guns and caused lots of British and Allied casualties. However, he fought fairly in the war and was well regarded. Whereas the SS were particularly political, whereas the army was technically apolitical.
Yeah, I think overall, on balance, I would struggle to be happy if my grandfather had been fighting in the SS in particular. That's a bit more than happening to fight with Germans, isn't it? But still, I think the point of the complexities of being a Latvian, you have to pick a side. What are you going to do? Say, no, I'm going to fight for Latvia on my own or with my several hundred other colleagues versus these hundreds of thousands of people coming in from either side. You kind of almost have to pick a side, don't you? And neither of the sides are good guys.
Yes.
I guess it's how you celebrate it, though, right?
Well, yes, and it is a controversial parade, as I said. So I think I'm going to non-controversially come out against the Waffen SS, but very much in favour of people who very kindly leave comments on YouTube. So thank you again, guys, for leaving us the comments.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say the Latvian community has been very supportive of your episode.
Oh, they've been great. Love a Latvian, me.
Yes, it was interesting when you were talking about the history of Latvia. I think you missed out or forgot a couple of things because don't forget Latvia was huge at one point. It used to stretch all the way to the Black Sea.
Was this as part of the Livonia?
Livonia and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth.
Yeah, I did skip over quite a lot of bits of history. I didn't want to spend an hour talking about individual history items, but you are correct. It was a very successful part of Livonia, which is Latvia and Lithuania and a bit more besides, I believe.
Yes, and it was in personal union with Poland, wasn't it? So it was a vast country until it was famously partitioned 3 times by the other powers.
What does that mean?
The partitions of Poland. Have you not heard of that?
No, remind me. I mean, maybe I have.
Well, it was a case of, Poland, Lithuania was weak. And so over time, sort of countries like Germany or Prussia and Russia and Austria took bits of it, sort of kept on nibbling at it. And so there were 3 main periods when it sort of started off as this enormous country that stretched from the Baltic to the Black Sea. And it sort of ended up as sort of Poland and Lithuania. And even then, Poland was then subsumed into Russia as a Grand Duchy.
Yeah, they even had some colonial ambitions, didn't they? Because we actually came across Livonia in our episode on the Gambia.
Yes, Courland, wasn't it?
They were trying to scramble for Africa with the rest of the European land hogs.
The Lithuanian Empire.
Don't hear a lot about it these days, do you?
Not at all.
Yes, it's sort of one of those countries that had an overseas empire that you didn't really think about. Another one was Denmark, of course. Apart from the obvious ones, they used to own the Danish Virgin Islands, which were sold to America as the American Virgin Islands.
So I want to talk about stag parties, Ryan.
Let's go.
One of my definitions of hell was a stag party. And
I agree with you on that.
Well, indeed, the country of Latvia had a rather unfortunate allure to particularly British stag parties.
Okay.
They were kind of rowdy, unsurprisingly, and in one particular instance, they would like to urinate on the Freedom Monument, the big monument to the soldiers who fell for Latvian independence.
That sounds like a bad thing.
Very much a bad thing. One British tourist/stag person was sentenced to 5 days in prison. I don't know whether he served it in the end, but they normally got let off with a warning, but they just kept doing it, I guess.
5 days.
Yeah, but there was a flip side to this, that knowing that these stag do's were coming, the clubs of Riga would start to scam the stag parties as well. So there was a two-sided problem, which is you had scamming clubs and you had horrible stag parties. But just for your knowledge, Ryan, should you find yourself in Riga, the clubs listed by the US Embassy as places to avoid include the Foxy Lounge, Roxy Club, Pink Panther, and Pussy Lounge, formerly the Doll's House.
The Doll's House.
So I just thought that was useful information for you in case you found
What
yourself
goes on in the Pussy Lounge?
I believe it's a place to relax by stroking cats, which, as we know, lowers the blood pressure.
That sounds perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's quite ironic that the guy who weed on the monument did so, because they actually have a guard, honour guard kind of thing, for the monument, which is made up of not actual soldiers, but young men who are doing their military service. But they only operate from 9 to 6. So after 6, I guess you're free to do whatever you want, up until the point at which you get arrested and sentenced to 5 days in prison.
Yeah, I don't want to do 5 days in prison, so I'm going to avoid doing that. If that's
Also,
okay.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Are you keen on urinating on national monuments, Paul?
I'm not sure I've ever done it.
You're not sure? I was hoping for a more definitive answer.
Talking of cascades of water, though.
Link.
Cascades of something.
I want to talk about waterfalls.
Yes.
Because we spoke about the world's widest...
Europe's widest.
Europe's
Don't overcook this.
Europe's widest waterfall. And I made a joke about how you could go over it in a barrel and
Yes.
that would be fine, right? Well, I was curious to know whether or not anyone had actually gone over the falls. And it turns out that I guess no one has. It's not been reported in anything that I could find. But what I did find is something going up the waterfall.
Is it a salmon?
It's not a salmon. It's a bream. At certain times of the year, they're going to spawn, so they race towards this waterfall and try and get up that little 2 meter high bit.
In a barrel?
But I did look back at the history of waterfall jumping or leaping or dropping, whatever you want to call it. In 1829, Sam Patch, known as the Yankee Leaper, he was the first to jump down the Niagara Falls, fell 175 feet, and he survived.
In a barrel? Is the barrel a required element?
He just jumped down it. He went, watch this, and then leapt into Niagara Falls. And since 1850, more than 5,000 people have gone over Niagara Falls. Among those who have died are Jesse Sharp, who in 1990 went over in a kayak, and Robert Overcracker, which is a great name.
Name to conjure with, isn't it?
Who in 1995 used a jet ski. Whew. The first to go over in a barrel, though, was in 1901, and it was a 63-year-old school teacher called Annie Edson Taylor.
Wow.
So let me tell you about her. So Annie's husband died during the Civil War. She settled in Michigan. She learned of the Niagara Falls while she was living there, and strapped for cash, she decided that she was going to do like a publicity stunt, make some money by going over the falls in a barrel.
I mean, where did the barrel come from as a notion?
That bit doesn't really appear in her story. So she decided she was going to go over, and she would go over on her birthday. She claimed to be 40 years old, but records prove she was 63. She used a leather harness to strap herself inside a custom wooden pickle barrel, 5 feet high by 3 feet wide, and had pillows which stuffed inside it to help break her fall. A small boat towed her out to the middle of the river, and then they just cut her loose. And she was battered by the rapids, right? Because it's not just like a smooth over the top. It's like rapids, loads of rocks and stuff. So she's battered by that, and she's propelled over the edge. 20 minutes later, she arrives at the shore, battered but alive. So talking of water, I did a little research on some Pirates of the Sea.
Ah, the Eurovision Masters.
The Eurovision band, that's
Peppy
right.
Pop Princes.
Oh,
Yeah, did you enjoy it, Judge?
did I enjoy what?
Their music.
The noise? No, I didn't.
Anyway, so I wanted to find out whether they were still going. Perhaps they had a new album out. Perhaps I could download it immediately and enjoy it. They have not.
Was that the high watermark for the Pirates of the Sea?
It was the high watermark. Very good. There were 3 band members. So where are they now? Roberto Agostino Maloni. He's the lead singer.
That's a very Baltic name.
Yeah, you'd think so, but he's not. He's Sardinian. He now lives in Latvia, though, and he is a television presenter and a cookbook author. He has 4 books out, which are available. He's represented Latvia twice at Eurovision. Once with Pirates in 2008, but also in the year before, 2007, with a group called Bonaparti.
Bonaparti. I believe we've used that as a punchline in one of our little videos.
We absolutely have, yeah. Then there's Alexandra Kurazova. Now, she's a ballroom dance teacher, and she's also a trampoline jumping instructor.
Excellent.
And then finally, on a bit of a down note, this is Yanis Valisya, TV and radio star since the 1990s. He passed away on the 9th of January 2016 from heart problems.
But at least he's attended Eurovision. How many people can say that? Not that many.
That's very true. But I did find that the song Wolves of the Sea has since been covered by a pirate-themed power metal band.
Oh, nice.
So I thought maybe you'd like to hear it.
I do want to hear that very badly.
Don't try to run, it's all said and done. There's a treasure in sight.
Pretty good, actually.
We are robbing you blind. I hope you don't mind. We are taking it all tonight. Just walk away, we will conquer
I like it.
all. Pirates will stand and the losers will fall.
I have to say, they've done it a great service in this version. I think they should bring it back to Eurovision and have another go with this mix. This is great.
I think they should stop using Eurovision Song Contest.
How about that, though?
This is
Pirate-themed
great.
power metal band.
Wow.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't know I liked that sort of thing. It turns out I do. You've awakened something in me.
So there was one other thing that I just wanted to sort of mention. I did the little research, Pete, around the Blondes March.
Did you now? You did a little research, did you? For science, was it, Ryan?
For the show.
For education.
For the education.
I would love to see your search history right now.
Yeah, you really would. But yeah, so I did. And it led me down a rabbit warren of information. And what I did find is that there were protests in 1953 when the Hollywood movie Gentlemen Prefer Blondes came out. And some brunettes and redheads protested the premiere, walking up and down with signs that said, "We've got everything blondes have, and unfair to brunettes and redheads."
Do I detect a tiny touch of a PR department at work there?
Yeah, it was likely a PR stunt, but, nonetheless. Also, interestingly, Marilyn Monroe starred in that film, and she did not have naturally blonde hair.
Well, that's a great Dolly Parton quote, isn't it? Where someone asked her, what do you think when people say that blondes are stupid? She says, well, I don't care because I know that I'm not stupid, and I also know that I'm not blonde.
It's interesting. Studies that I read show that people do indeed seem to prefer blondes over brunettes or redheads or greys. Greys never get a mention.
Well, we're a dying breed, literally.
And so we have come to the end of the line. It is that time for you to take your step into the dock and prepare to face the people's judge.
I'm ready.
Judge Dursley, are you ready to give your verdict?
Yes, I am.
Then will the defendant please rise? Have you risen?
Yes, I've risen.
It's an audio form.
Could you not hear that? You can tell I'm rising by the cracks of my knees.
Your Honour, as usual, may we start proceedings by first asking for your verdict on number 1, factual content.
Well, there were lots of facts in it.
There were.
Most of them are correct.
Most of them.
Almost all of them.
Almost all of them.
You hit the country.
Which was a small target.
You covered the time period, but this hell and high water, though, there wasn't much hell in it.
That's very true. Hell was missing. Sorry, I'll be quiet.
And given that you missed out a significant chunk of your word, I'm going to dock you a point. So I'll give you a straight B.
A straight B. That sounds good.
Actually not bad. I was just preparing to launch an appeal, but I've thought better of it.
Yeah, keep quiet on that one. Okay, Your Honour, may I then ask for your verdict on entertainment value? How entertained were you?
I wasn't entertained by the noises and the music in it, so I'm afraid there's going to be a little bit of a downer on that. But generally the entertainment was satisfactory. I will give C+.
Okay, that's not bad.
Curse you, pirates of the sea. You brought me down. Should have gone for the power metal version.
And finally, Your Honour, may I ask you for your verdict on Dursley factor? How did it tickle your bones?
Well, I think Pete was talking about the wrong country for most of it, as I was expecting him to be talking more about Lithuania.
That is a very Dursley factor moment there. It was just, you were just in the neighbouring country mentally, and I was therefore incorrect.
So I will give you D for that.
A D for Dursley factor. Ouch! But there's no, you can't appeal Dursley factor, can you? He is Dursley.
Silence in court. And so we reach the final verdict. Peter, before the judge passes his verdict, you have an opportunity now to enter a plea. If you choose to do so, please make that plea now.
Yes, many fine, upstanding Latvian citizens from Our Latvia on Reddit and from YouTube and from the country of Latvia all contributed to this. It is solid facts. It's as Latvian as you can get. And hell or high water is a single phrase of which I interpreted as determination. So the absence of hell is immaterial, sir. I put it to you.
Thank you.
Don't think it worked.
Your Honour, the defendant now stands before you. Have you reached a verdict?
Yes, I have.
In which case, I would ask most respectfully for your ruling.
I will give Peter a C.
Appalled by that. The people of Latvia will rise up against Judge Dursley and create their own system of courts for this episode.
Right. Well, Peter, we now turn our attention towards me and episode 53, The Jaws of Death in Hong Kong during the 13th century.
Yes, I'm very excited to see what you do that.
Well, I can guarantee you that this one will have some real bite.
I mean, as trailers go, right?
I thought that was pretty good. I was quite pleased with that.
That wasn't bad.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, there we are. That is the show for this week. Thank you all for listening. If you'd like to get in touch about any of the things that we've talked about on this show, and we've said some really rather contentious things, or just to say hello, you can reach out to us on social media through our website at hhepodcast.com or by email at peteandryan@hhepodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you, and you never know, you might end up featured on a future show.
Such as user 1000X on YouTube, who says, this is a very well-made podcast. I should have used this in my defense, shouldn't I?
You should have done.
This is a very well-made podcast, and I'm an instant fan.
Yeah, too late now.
Is that your email address?
And we've also heard from Karu, a real honest-to-goodness Latvian, and a friend of the show who's a long-time listener and a fan. Hey, Karu, how you doing?
Hey, crew.
Said a load of lovely things about the episode. I'll just give you one snippet. You did a wonderful job. Thank you so much, Karu. Hope you keep listening.
He was talking about me.
Well, it doesn't specify, so
Yeah, but
probably me.
I think it's clearer it was me.
Might be a Dursley fan.
Anyway. And one way to definitely feature on a future episode is to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. Your recommendation can really help to bring the show to new listeners.
If you're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, you can find us at hhepodcast.
All right, so a huge thank you to the judge himself. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.
And that's it. I guess all that's left to say is...
You've been listening to... I have a small confession, Ryan.
Please tell me your confession, my son.
During the episode, you consumed a rather substantial poppy seed bun.
Yeah?
It transpires that had you had a drugs test at work in the next few days after consuming said bun,
Yes.
you may well have tested positive.
For what?
Opium.
Wait, what?
So the professor of pharmacology at Queen Mary University, called Atul Johnson, said, if you eat a poppy seed roll, it could give rise to a positive result on a urine drug test for morphine.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, no problem. The morphine content of poppy seeds can vary a lot, but you won't get high. But the tests they have for morphine are so sensitive that your poppy seeds could have triggered it, and I could have made you lose your job. Sorry.
Right. So I guess you're saying that you've been baking bad.
Oh dear. I thought I was going to take part in something.